G'day everyone, welcome to episode 108 of the Trademate Sports Betting Podcast, a betting preview of UFC 263 headlined by Israel Adesanya and Marvin Vettori, the rematch. Today, I'm joined as always by Ex MMA Fighter and your top right-hand corner of your screen, Smart Sports Trader. How are you, mate?
Very good, mate. Looking forward to the Euros and looking forward to UFC on Saturday, so it's going to be a good weekend.
What a weekend coming up. And bottom of your screen is Pro Sports Bettor. You might have seen him before. Jonas Gjelstad, the most popular man on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, I like that intro.
Should challenge Jake Paul then, right? That'd be the money fight.
Well,
man. Who would you take on, Logan
Paul,
or Jake?
Logan or Jake?
Yeah.
They're both massive though. You know, I'm like 63 kilos and they're like, I don't know, way more. But sure, hey, I'll bring them both, make it interesting.
Floyd Mayweather's like 50, mate, so you'd be right.
I'll be happy to take on both if I could bring Ryan into the mix though.
Like
we have this like WWE thing, you go out and tap out and take them both and just like...
Before we get into the fights, gents, I'll just give you the quiz question for the week. So I've got Damian Maia. Oh, this is one of my favorite. I've come up with this all by myself. I thought it was quite genius. Damian Maia has 28 wins in his career. In using which method has he won most of his fights? Has it been by decision, by knockout or TKO, by any kind of choke? So let's like rear naked or guillotine. Or, I mean, I know triangle's a choke too, but we'll just make it separate. Or has it been by triangle? So we'll get to that at the end of the podcast. But just a quick disclaimer on this video that we're doing for all the videos now. On our channel, I or no one else on this YouTube channel is a financial advisor. This is just educational content aimed at improving your knowledge about sports betting, or in this case, MMA betting. There is a risk of losing money on betting, and what choices you make with your money is up to you. So please be responsible. Today, we are going to cover the middleweight title fight between Adesanya versus Vettori, the flyweight title fight between Figgy and Moreno, and the 5-round welterweight bout between Leon Edwards and Nate Diaz. I believe this is the first time that a 5-round fight has happened that's a non-title fight and not the main event. So quite interesting stuff there. We're going to give you all the value picks you want to need. But the big question is, outside of those 3 fights, Ryan, what else is taking your fancy, mate?
So the first one I like is in the Drew Dober versus Brad Riddell fight. Dober's coming in it's coming on the back of a loss to Makhachev, where it was just basically out grappled in that fight. But Makhachev is, one of the best grapplers in the UFC at this point. Before that, he KO'd Alexander Hernandez and he KO'd Nasrat Haqparast as well. And he's just a really good athlete, Dober. He's been in the UFC for about 7 or 8 years now, and you've seen a real progression. He's a very fluid striker. He's got really nice Muay Thai. And in this fight, I think he's got a decent speed advantage, and I think he's got the power advantage. Now, Riddell's a decent striker as well. I think his record is something like 9-1, and he's got a kickboxing background. He fights out of Adesanya's camp, so he's going to be well prepared. But I just think that, the way these two match up, they're both strikers. It's going to be mainly a kickboxing bout, and I just think like with Dober's speed advantage, I think he's a little bit more fluid, and I think he's the better athlete, and he's younger as well, so I think he's got a higher ceiling than Brad Riddell. So I just see him either outstriking Riddell and landing the harder shots over the 3 rounds, or possibly even getting a knockout. So yeah, I like Dober here. I took him early in the week at 1.8, but I think if you can get 1.7 and still take that, and that's kind of probably the lowest to go, that 1.7, but I think you can get that on Betfair.
Yeah, I can see 1.7 there on Betfair. It might be a bit tricky to find that now, but yeah, maybe it will swing in a couple of bookies' favour once we get closer to the fight. It should be a cracking fight though. You'd think, it's definitely a fight of the night contender.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. And the KO prop as well, so it was 4. You can get that at a few places. You might even be able to get better somewhere. You probably get better on the exchange. I think that's worth a little bet as well, as like I say, Dober does hit really hard. It's likely it's going to be mainly a stand-up fight, so I think like if you can't get that 1.7, then I think that's quite a good option as well.
Well, good news for you, mate, is that you can get 5.5 on Paddy Power Betfair. So there you go. There's
I can't get that, but that's a good price. That's a really good price.
Yeah, that's an outlier if I've ever seen one. All right, well, that's a good start, mate. Jonas, I haven't really asked you if you've got anything outside of those 3 fights that you'd like to look at today.
Yeah, one thing that stood out to me is Paul Craig against Jamahal Hill. I was really surprised. I've never really seen Paul Craig being priced this high. He's like always been a phenomenal grappler, and I think, yeah, like it's hard. I would struggle to justify him being that big of an underdog. So it's a bit of a long shot, but I kind of fancy Paul Craig for that price. I can see him being at 3.5 in numerous places.
Yeah, you can get as high as 3.6, 3.5 at Bet365. And I know that Ryan wants to go through this fight, actually, and we might have a little disagreement here.
So Craig is very good on the ground, but he sometimes he struggles to get the fight to the ground. And on the feet, he's defensively very flawed. You know, he tends to move back with his head straight up. He kind of flicks out kicks, but he's not very confident. And I really like Jamahal Hill. I think he's a very solid prospect. He's really long. You know, he's like a basketball player. When you look at his kind of physique, he's got very long arms and legs. He's got really sharp boxing. And like I say, when like Paul Craig's under pressure, he tends to back up with his head straight up as well, and you know he'll lean back against the fence. And Jamahal Hill's just got a really nice straight left, and his boxing's so crisp that I think he's going to catch him. And every time Craig's lost, he's been finished. So he's got 4 losses. He's been finished every time. I think he's been finished 3 times in the first round. So I quite like Hill to win inside the distance here. So I got him at 2 with poker stars. But I think you can still get. You might be able to get like 1.8, which is still a price that I would take, to be honest. Like, even if you just take the KO, because I don't think he's likely to go for submission, just because Craig is very good on the ground. But that's a bet I really like, actually. Hill by KO. If you can get anything better than 1.8, I think it's really good.
Yeah, but then again, even if we disagree about the outcome of the game, like we can still agree, and they can still be value both sides. Having said that, but yeah, I guess we'll see. Like you said, he might struggle to get up and stuff like that. But Paul Craig is a beast, and let's see if we can bring him to the ground and dominate him that way. And if he gets taken down, I hope you win.
Yeah,
I don't want to see any decision win by Hill.
No, I mean, like you say, I mean, Hill's priced at like 1.36 on the money line. But if it's kind of to look like a 1.36 fighter, then he's going to be piecing Craig up with his boxing. So that's just why I take that. But I don't agree that, you know, Craig is very dangerous on the ground. If he somehow gets it there, you know, he's going to have a good chance at finishing it. It's just I just kind of prefer the Hill line just because I kind of just rate him as like the better athlete and the better prospect long term. But I don't disagree if somebody, you know, wants to bet Paul Craig. You know, Paul Craig's submission will probably be a good bet.
Lauren Murphy and Joanne Calderwood, Ryan, is your next one, mate.
Yeah, so this should be a good fight. And when it opened, they were both kind of priced at evens or like 1.91 each. So I quite like Murphy here. She's getting up there in age. She's like 37 now, but she seemed to have found some form recently. She's coming in off a submission win over Lily Shakarova. She's not the most technical striker, but physically she's very strong, and she kind of uses that by coming forward and throwing shots. She's got some natural power as well. She's got a few knockouts. She's very tough. She's really durable, and she's got really good pressure. And she'll be able to back up Calderwood, I feel, and get her to the cage and initiate some clinch work. And I think if she gets on the ground, she's going to have a pretty decent grappling advantage as well. So I can see why the money has been coming in on Calderwood. You know, her output is really good. She's got more tools on her feet. She's got nice knees. You know, she's got a different array of kicks, which are really nice. But I just feel like in this spot that it should be a close fight. Like, I kind of agree with where it opened rather than like how far that line's moved. So I like Murphy here. Like I've got her at about 2.36 on Betfair, but if you can get anything above 2.25, I think it's a really solid bet.
Yeah, get 2.25 at a couple of places there. Bet365, Betfred on the screen there, and yeah, maybe as it gets closer to fight time, if the odds kind of stay the same, you might be able to get something similar on the exchanges or the sharps. A fight that I wanted to talk about, and I think you have a few things to say about it too, Ryan, was Eryk Anders and Darren Stewart. Watched a little bit of tape, or at least I've watched their last fight a couple of times now, and I was just surprised to see some of the odds around this one, considering the way the fight went last time. So, for those who don't know, Eryk Anders and Darren Stewart fought in March, and that was at middleweight. And this fight's actually going to be at light heavyweight, which I think favours Anders slightly, just because he's probably the bigger fighter, and he often goes in between both weight classes and kind of, floats between them both. So he's comfortable with moving up and down. I believe Stewart hasn't fought at light heavyweight since 2017 or 18, so it's been a while since he's gone back up in weight. And what I liked here was the method of victory markets. I can share the screen. I quite like Anders by KO or submission or inside the distance. I was able to get 3.1 on our equivalent of Paddy Power over here or Betfair. I'm not sure what else you can get around. I'm just having a look around. It only says that he's available here at 2.88, but Anders basically dominated for most of the fight last time. Should have finished him and would have finished him if he didn't throw that stupid knee. So I just think, 3.1, or I don't know, maybe you take anything 3 and above, maybe a little bit lower you could go. I think that's value, and I think that should come in as the fight comes closer. What do you think about that one, Ryan?
Well, yeah, I agree that I think Anders is the side in that fight. He's got the weight advantage at light heavyweight. Obviously, they fought a few months ago, and he was able to initiate his grappling quite well. He was able to work Stewart against the cage, using his clinch game, and then he was able to land some really big shots. So yeah, I really like Anders. Like money line as well. I think that's a good bet if you can get above 1.7. And also, like you say, with the method of victory as well. I think that's good.
All right, Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz. I'll just get up the odds on my screen. That is not the odds I wanted to look at, but I'm assuming from what I remember before, Leon Edwards at 1.19 is probably the best you can get at the moment, and Nate Diaz as high as 5.25, 5.5 in some places. Edwards is still on an 8-fight win streak, unless you want to count the no contest against Bilal Muhammad a couple of months ago. In a lot of people's eyes, he should have had a title shot by now, but that's the UFC, and giving Jorge Masvidal a rematch was a contentious debate for some people, maybe, at least for me. Diaz hasn't fought since the BMF title bout in late 2019, where he was finished by doctor's stoppage in round 3. I'll go to you first on this, Jonas. If you were opening up a market, mate, this is my favourite debate about this fight. If you had to open up a market on Diaz's chances of getting a cut or bleeding in this fight, what would you open the market up with, mate?
If you looked at the fight Stewart had, Matt Edwards had against Bilal, that was naughty, right? He fucking beat him up. Bilal has always been a tough guy who's basically never been hurt or anything like that. But he was fucked against Edwards. Edwards is fast. Diaz is not fast. Diaz's defense is basically relying on his offense. So I think to see something like that is very likely. Again, because Diaz is also a fighter who doesn't go down. He is going to fight until the doctor stops him or he gets knocked unconscious. But he got some crazy chin. So it's for this to be a doctor stoppage, the odds.
Yeah,
if I was a bookmaker, I would probably put up a more appealing line for this not to be a doctor stoppage, because I think it's very likely.
Yeah.
So if I was the bookmaker, how would I operate? Well, I would take a look at the market and see what the other bookmakers are opening at. If I'm gonna have to be the first one out, I probably just do the review, see what's the lowest for a doctor stoppage in history, and put even and offer even bigger prices on this, not to be it, because I don't think it's ever been like actually not a doctor stoppage in a fight. I think this is going to get nasty. 5 rounds. Well, I just hope Edwards isn't trying to pace himself too much in this fight, because he should be able to get the job done quite quickly, I think.
He's not. He's a funny fighter, Edwards, and he's not like. He's not. You wouldn't say he's reckless, but he's also he can be really tactical, but he's not. I don't know how to describe him. I was just watching a lot of video on him yesterday because he is very tactical, but he still stands right in front of people and trades strikes. And I just looking at some of the elbows he pulled off against Rafael dos Anjos and Bilal Muhammad too. Like I just cannot see how Diaz's face is going to be able to survive 5 rounds. I mean, I feel in my eyes, I think Edwards can do probably a few more vicious things to Diaz's face than Jorge Masvidal did, and this is the Diaz 2 years later down the line. So I don't know. How do you see this one playing out, Ryan?
Yeah, similar to you guys, really. I think it's Diaz hasn't had too much success at 170. He's always been a bit undersized, even like going back. Probably go back 7 or 8 years, and he fought Stun Gun Kim, and he just got kind of ragdolled, and then Rory McDonald ragdolled him, so then he went back down, and then I don't really understand why he's come back up to 170, and this is like a really bad matchup for him. So the odds are kind of warranted. Like you say, maybe a way to look at it is like we know that Diaz is very, very tough. So I'd be interested to see like what Edwards round 4 stoppage and round 5 stoppage are, because like you say, he's got a lot of scar tissue. He does cut up quite easily. And I think Edwards is going to be able to land on him. And he's probably going to be able to chew up that front leg as well. Diaz stands very heavy on that leg. Edwards is a good kicker. So yeah, just it's a tough one, really. I was hoping that, obviously, because Diaz is quite popular, that the bookies might have had the odds a little bit closer, but they've kind of got this one pretty spot on, I think.
Yeah, I was looking at the method of victory markers because I was hoping there might be something good there on Edwards to finish Diaz by KO, and I guess normally the KO line includes doctor's stoppage, and I think it was like 2.25. So for me, it probably just wasn't high enough, because you never know if they're going to stop a fight due to a cut, and Diaz has the chin of all chins, so you can see him just taking a battering over 5 rounds. I guess the only hope you give Diaz in this one is the fact that it's 5 rounds. I mean, if it was 3 rounds, I'd just about give him 0 hope, because then his cardio doesn't really come into it as much. I'm not saying Leon Edwards hasn't got a gas tank, because he certainly does, but Diaz is the GOAT when it comes to the gas tank.
You do have a bet, though, with Leon Edwards to win round 4 or 5 or by decision at 1.8. So he has 225 to 230 to win inside the distance, but you can call it a hedge and add those in for that bet. That's PokerStars.
What did you say?
Good, actually. Yeah.
Edwards to win in round what?
4 or 5 or decision 1.8.
But I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if it ended in round 3, would you?
Well, I mean, you're not having a luck here. If you can get round 3 in on this bet and 2 and 1, you can start calling yourself a financial advisor.
Remove the disclaimer.
Yeah.
Oh God, the disclaimer. It's going to be the end of me. All right. Well, anything else we want to say on this fight? I mean, it's pretty hard to see anything other than a Diaz beating. I mean, the only thing that I was potentially thinking of even taking like 120, because I thought Diaz, doesn't really have much chance. But I think it's more just watching Leon fight yesterday. Like he does. It's not like he has exceptional defense, and he is happy to take a shot. So that was the only thing that kind of said.
he does fight safe sometimes as well. If you look at him, like his fight with Cerrone, he didn't blow Cerrone out of the water. Gunnar Nelson got him down and had some success in that fight as well. So it's not like he's winning fights, but sometimes it's not like he's always like demolishing guys. He does have like close fights. So he might decide to like just take Nate Diaz down and kind of get some control time as well. So it's a tough one, really. I think it's quite hard to find a really good like value bet in this one.
Yeah,
but if you were to pick like a round, I see Leon Edwards is like 10 in odds round 3, 13 round 4, and 17 round 5.
I think that's the only angle you can really go with, eh?
Yeah, you could Dutch those 3 rounds, and you've probably got a nice little bet there. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Love it, gents. Let's move on. The rematch between, I feel like this is your favourite fighter, Jonas, Figgy, the Fig Man. Davison Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. They go head-to-head once again. Tell us what you like about Figgy, mate.
I mean, we're the same kind of weight, right? So I gotta admire that. And
same hair color too.
We're both known for our power and same hair color. At least I used to have it. Maybe I'll go back on it if he defends for the 10th time or whatever many times he's been winning now. But I've been on Moreno in both previous fights, so I don't know. I find it like I feel like people like him, undefeated, winning every time. Everyone is hyping up his power. Yes, he's powerful, but is it really? I just feel like the lines is always going to move in the favor of the opponents of fighters like this. So I'm much rather go for the underdog. But the problem is I don't know enough about all of this to pin it down. I think, yes, by going on with the strategy that I just said now, yes, you can pick up a slight edge in the market. Yes, there might be bets that you have your minus 5% on because those theories doesn't work for everyone. But there's other fights where you might have like 10%. So it's hard to really say and pinpoint it down. And as your disclaimer said, we're not financial advisors. So, but I do. I feel like fights like this, it's one thing is to bet pre-fight, which you do sometimes or most of the times, but you can see so fast into the first round, and between the first and second round you can usually pick up so much good bets, in my opinion. And that's basically, I think, where you can have the biggest edges now in UFC betting, watching what's been going on and understanding like the opportunities that arise. And I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see what how the fight is gonna start. I think, yes, Figueiredo has a great chance of knocking out Moreno in the first round. I've seen the UFC embedded or something. Is that what it's called? Yeah. So they basically follow the fighters, and of course, whatever they say there, they try to put on a show. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna knock this motherfucker out. He said, and I was like, I was injured last time, and it's 1 second there. I'm just playing 2 tables of poker, and as I forgot about this.
The disrespect, mate. Come on. You can't just give up poker for 1 second.
Well, it's a tournament. It's very hard to just say, okay, I'm going to blind myself out. So I turned it straight, and so I was a bit nervous there. Not nice. Nervous, but yeah, like if you go back to like in play and one, I don't know if people are interested to hear about this, but I go on my usual rant, and then people can fast forward for 2 minutes if they don't want to listen to this. So did you guys watch the Latifi and Bowser fight this weekend?
Yeah.
Like Latifi looked likely to have the first round, and Bowser was just like crushing him in the second, and Latifi seemed to be gassing. But it was also pretty obvious that it was 1-1 in rounds. So what do you think the live odds was on Latifi going into the third round?
About 10, weren't they? Because well, it was on Betfair because I was having a look at it.
Yeah. So I put up some on Betfair, and I got matched whatever I put up there at 11 for Latifi, and I did get also there was one bookmaker was offering 10.7, and it's just like these kind of things where people are like, yeah, he's gassing it, he got 0% chance, but when you have such a like dominant or a guy like Latifi who can basically grapple everyone and take him down, yes, he might not do a lot of damage and he's not known for his finishes, but all he needs to do is to win that last round, and then Lebanon for that is just sick, even though it looked shit in the second round. But you've seen that so many times. So,
I think we've talked about this fight for about 5 minutes now, and I don't think anyone has said anything about the fight. We've talked more about fucking Latifi and his gas tank, but that's about it.
Yeah, well, that was a good bet, though, to be fair. And it's like Ponzinibbio as well last week. He was massive odds after round 1 as well.
But his leg was broken, right? It looked
it was messed up, yeah. It was messed up.
Usually betting against people with broken foot is a good strategy in UFC, but...
yeah, Henry.
Okay, anyways. Moreno Figueiredo, second fight. First fight was a 5-round slugfest. I remember everything now.
Yes, it was quite the fight. Ryan, are you expecting something similar this time, mate? Or do you think, because I kind of get the feeling that, you know, they've been through that 5-round war together, that maybe, you know, I can see Moreno maybe being happy to get back into the war again, because I think that's the kind of fight he loves and maybe the ones that he relishes in. But maybe Figgy might want to pick his shots a bit more. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, it's kind of tough to call. Like I thought in the first fight, obviously I thought there was a lot of value back in Moreno. Like Jonas said, like sometimes going against these big punches is a good idea. But because we've seen the first fight, obviously the odds are a lot closer this time. Like you could get Moreno decision at like 11 and 12 last fight, and it's like 5 this fight. So it's fairly tough, really. Like Figueiredo, because he couldn't get him out in the last fight, maybe he'll look to take this, like, conserve his gas tank a little bit. He might take it a little bit easier and not kind of blitz as much. Or it could be the opposite. You know, he could go out and think he needs to make a big statement and try and wipe Moreno out in 1 round. So, but it's kind of a guessing game, really. So I've been struggling to kind of find value on this one because, like we said, like the bookmakers have had a chance to see the first fight now, so they can line it a lot more efficiently. I saw that Figueiredo decision was 4.0. I thought that was okay, just because in the last fight, I mean, it was a draw and he had a point deducted as well. He said he was sick. I don't know if that's true or not, but Moreno is super durable, so I quite like that. And then I've seen that like the fight to go decision as well is creeping up as well. I think that's about 2.2 now, and it seems to kind of keep going up. So that looks like an option as well. But like I'm just trying to find stuff, and you know when you're trying to find stuff, that it's not normally the best bet, really.
Yeah, that was the one that sprung out to me, mate, for the fight to go decision. I just got the market up on the screen now. For the fight to go to decision, yes, is at 2.1. I mean, you just said you found 2.2 in places, but yeah, I've taken that. I just think there's a better chance of it going the distance than it being finished. So, I mean, I'd essentially just have the line flip the other way around. I think they both have very good chins. I think I don't know if I'm right on this, but there seemed to be some kind of narrative before the first fight about Figgy not having a gas tank. I don't know, maybe he gassed out in a previous fight or something like that, maybe when he had weight cutting problems. But I mean, surely considering that he was ill going into this fight and he went 5 rounds, 5 of the hardest rounds that you could possibly go. And to be honest, I don't think he really gassed at all. I mean, I was watching the fight yesterday, the day before, and Rogan was going on in like the 3rd or the 4th round about how gassed Figgy was. And I mean, that just wasn't true. So I think those thoughts about Figgy not having a gas tank I don't think they're true, and I feel like both these fighters can easily go 5 rounds again, and I think they're both very hard to finish. I actually think Moreno's chin is very solid because Figgy caught him a couple of times with some hard shots. And I would even make the argument that Moreno maybe has even more chance of finishing Figgy than the other way around, because I think Moreno can just go and go and go. And yeah, Figgy, I don't know. Maybe like he obviously doesn't have the gas tank of Moreno, but I just think I think there's more chance that the fight will go the distance. So I see value in those odds. Jonas, you've babbled on about this one a little bit, but is there any bets you like here, mate?
It's hard to say. I think you're gonna see you can see signs of Figueiredo gassing, then jump in on Moreno. I think it's very likely to go the distance, and it all depends. If Figueiredo starts to gas, Moreno's going to be able to pick up those important rounds and win the fight. I think Figueiredo is very likely to pick up the first round. He has some equity in getting a first round KO. So hard to say, really. It's not like I'm loving anything. Like Figueiredo, yes, he got some crazy knockout power. If he's really gonna go for it, yeah, you can bet him first round KO. But it's hard. You're taking a gamble on then him possibly having to go for it, which in a 5-round fight you rarely see them do that in those big title fights. Everyone seems to pace themselves, so betting like Figueiredo second round KO, it's risky, but I think something like that could be value. I would definitely not bet Figueiredo first round KO, even though, having said that, he's probably going to go and knock him out the first round.
We will see, mate. Hopefully it's another exciting fight like the first one. Let's go on to the main event. Israel Adesanya and Marvin Vettori, number 2. These guys fought for the first time in April of 2018. Adesanya winning by a decision. I mean, I watched back the fight the other day. It looked like Adesanya won the first 2 rounds and Marvin won the third. I'll just get the market up on my screen now. Marvin Vettori at about 3.25. That's the best odds I can see here on Bet365. And Adesanya as good as 1.4 in a few places. Vettori, that was his last loss. That matchup in 2018. He's now on a 5-fight winning streak with dominant performances over Kevin Holland and Jack Hermanson in his last 2 fights. Adesanya coming off that first loss of his MMA career in the light heavyweight title fight against Jan Blachowicz, but this will be his 3rd defense of the middleweight title. I'll go to you first, Ryan, mate. Have you watched back the first fight between Adesanya and Vettori, and was there anything that you picked up on heading into this fight?
Yeah, I watched it yesterday. I think it's again, like I was saying, it's a rematch. So I always think that bookmakers, they have a better way of predicting kind of rematches because they've seen the first one. But this is 5 rounds, and obviously in that first fight we saw Vettori take that 3rd round, and he started to implement his grappling. And then we saw in the Adesanya's last fight against Jan that Jan was able to control him with his grappling in the later round. So that gives some kind of credence to back in Vettori, but it might be one to look at to back in play, because I do think the first 2 rounds are always going to be very hard against Adesanya. Closing that distance is super hard. Adesanya might work the legs a bit. You want to see how Vettori's, if he's limping in the 3rd round, then obviously that's going to take away his explosion and his ability to get the fight against the fence, where that's probably where he's going to have his the most success. So I would like a live play on this, really. Like if Vettori drops, if he clearly drops the first round, you might get odds of 4.5 on him. And I just kind of check those leg kicks as well, see how he's dealing with them, and see if he is able to kind of get past the jab and the kicks of Adesanya and at least get to that clinch range. Because even if Adesanya kind of shrugs him off in the first 2 rounds, at least we know that Vettori can get to that clinch range. And then as Adesanya fades a little bit, then Vettori might have some more success. So that's kind of the way I would look at it at the moment.
Yeah, Jonas, your thoughts, mate?
I mean, Adesanya is just a league on his own in this weight division, I think. Yes, you could say it was a close first match with them. They both have improved. Marvin's Vettori's win streak has been good, but I feel like the opponents he's been fighting against has not been Andrew Sanchez, Figueiredo, Hermanson, Carl Robertson, and Kevin Holland. They're so far away from what he's going to be fighting against now in Adesanya. And I think it's easy for a lot of people to kind of lose a bit of, or forget about how dominant Adesanya has been in his fights. I think it's going to basically pick Vettori apart, and unless, I just don't see how Vettori is going to get 3 rounds against him. But again, it's not the most appealing odds. You get about 1.4, and it's hard to say. It's not easy to finish Vettori, so Adesanya decision could be interesting. But again, I'm not super comfortable betting too much on this. Like, watching it to see how it goes live could be more interesting, in my opinion, and see what kind of strategies both of them are going for.
It'll be interesting to see how much that Yarn fight has affected Adesanya's confidence, if at all, because he was essentially on top of the world at that point. He's been untouchable since he's been in the UFC. I mean, has he been through really much trouble at all? Maybe the Gastelum fight, he took a few decent shots there, but his, you would have to say his confidence would have taken a little bit of a hit, surely, after the Yarn fight. And he comes up against Vettori here, who's probably one of the better wrestlers he'll face, and he's actually been able to take him down before. So I think the blueprint's there for Vettori to win this fight. I think it's there for both fighters. I think it's pretty easy, pretty simple to analyze this fight and see what they both have to do. Obviously, Vettori just has to get in as close as possible, get him in the clinch as much as possible, just make this a really dirty fight, I guess. I mean, I know it's a weird thing to say, but to make this as uncomfortable for Adesanya as possible, because as soon as this fight sits at range, Adesanya is just going to pick him off all day long. So yeah, that should be the game plan for Adesanya and Vettori. It's just make this as messy and get it as tight as possible. So I took Vettori. He was at 3.4 on Bet Victor earlier in the week. So I've bet that. I think that was way too high, and I'd personally take anything kind of above 3 on Vettori. I think it's more so just factoring in that I think Adesanya's confidence might have taken a bit of a hit, and I think he might be a little bit hesitant going into this one. And I think it's not the fight where you want to be hesitant and not confident, because I just think Vettori could just get in there and just be a bit of an animal. He's an angry man. He's an angry man, isn't he? I laughed so hard yesterday. I was watching the Dan Hardy podcast, and they were talking about when he got kicked in the balls by Holland, and how it's just, oh mate, if there's anything you want to go and watch, it's watch Vettori get kicked in the balls by Holland, because it is the funniest reaction you'll ever see to someone who's like, "What the hell? What the hell? Why did you do that?" It's like, oh mate, made me laugh so much.
It's pretty obvious what Vettori's game plan is, and he's been saying it also. Oh, I'm just going to take you down, put you down for 5 rounds, and that's how I'm going to win.
Yeah.
But the thing that's usually what they're doing when they're saying this is they're making it so obvious, and all of a sudden he's been focusing on some other things. And that's why, Vettori KO could all of a sudden be interesting, because Vettori KO is going to be like, I see Stars as it as 11, but there's probably better odds elsewhere, because it's been so open about how he's going to go on about this fight, making Adesanya spend most of his time preparing for that. And then when they get in the ring, it's just, he's going to do some takedowns, but he's probably been working in some slick fakes to go for a takedown and then some combos up there. But
I was going to say, I think Vettori was 27 when they first fought, or at least he was quite young. I mean, I think he's still going to keep getting better. Like I know, the more I think about it, I think it's more than it's there for Vettori to do his best. And considering how the Adesanya fight went with Blachowicz, I can just see Adesanya being a bit like, oh, I can't get taken down again. And then next thing he knows, old mate's just right inside, dirty boxing, clinch, and he's so worried about the takedown that he's getting hit with some decent shots. So I don't know. It'll be a very. What do you guys think? The other thing I want to talk about is Vettori's gas tank. He's a funny one because he seems to kind of go all day, but he looks really tired. So I haven't really. Have you got any thoughts on that, Ryan?
I mean, I think it was in the Hermansson fight, wasn't it, where he looked like he was slowing down, and then I think he had a pretty decent 5th round. So I mean, it looks like the type of fighter that would slow down because he's quite jacked up, isn't he? He's got massive shoulders, and his striking's quite clunky almost, and that's probably because he is so heavily muscled. So it's probably going to depend if he's going to be able to get like rest periods, if he's going to be able to, get Adesanya against the fence. How much is he going to kind of exert trying to take Adesanya down? And if he can't take Adesanya down, then he probably will get tired. And then if he gets tired, he's just going to be like a sitting duck, isn't he? Adesanya will just, pick him off from range. So, like I say, it's a tough one, this fight. It's like similar to the Moreno Figueiredo one, just because it's a rematch. I just think it can be tough to find value like pre-match. So I always like kind of looking at the live options in these fights. But I don't disagree with your bet on Vettori either. I think like if I had to pick a side, I would pick Vettori, the current odds. But yeah, it's just it's a tough one.
Yeah, I could just see him nicking 3 rounds, But anyway, we'll see how the fight goes. It should be very, very interesting. And hopefully, no matter what happens, no matter who wins, the next challenger is the Reaper. Best bets of the weekend, fellas. I'll go to you first, Jonas, mate. Out of everything we've talked about today, mate, including Latifi to win the 3rd round live, what's your favourite bet of the weekend, mate?
My favorite would be going against both of you in the last fight, but it's I don't have like any like super like bets that I feel very comfortable about this week. You also mentioned like I'm not going to take that away from you, the Eryk Anders fight. But I'd say Adesanya decision. Adesanya decision.
What's that at, mate?
2 point. You can at least get 2.3. You can probably get it. No, 2.4. Probably get a bit higher.
Yeah, 2.5 on Paddy Power. Yeah.
I'm not going to rule out that the judges might like Adesanya more than they like Vettori. So it might be a bit of a robbery, but it'll do the job. In UFC now, it's important to do damage and not just be on top and tickle the other guy.
Oh, mate, who knows what they're looking at, though? It's just such a lottery now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. All right.
Ryan?
I'll take Jamahal Hill to win by KO 1.8 or above. I think that's a very good bet.
All right, lovely. And I will go with, I think I'll go with the Anders one. I think that's, obviously I like everything that I've said, but I think the Anders one is the biggest piece of value. So Anders inside the distance at 3.1, I believe you can get. And I mean, maybe you don't really see him getting a submission. So if you want a little bit more bigger odds, you can get 3.5 for the straight KO. But that's what I believe this week. You can find these gentlemen on Twitter at SM Sports Trader and Jonas Gjelstad. And check out Ryan's website, smartsportstrader.com. Always posting some brilliant articles and videos too. I highly recommend Ryan's YouTube channel. It's a good watch. He's really up the ante on some of his production value too. He goes different angles every now and then. You never know where it's going.
It's because I don't know what I'm doing. It's
oh mate, it's gold. All right, quiz question. Damian Maia has 28 wins in his career. Which method has he won most of his fights using? Has it been by decision, has it been by KO or TKO, any kind of choke, be that rear naked or guillotine, or by triangle? I'll let you go first, Jonas, mate. I think you muted
Yeah,
yourself.
sorry. So I'm just gonna go by the assumption, because you singled out triangle, it's gonna have to be triangle. So I'm gonna say triangle because you were so specific about that.
All right, well done, mate. And what are you going with, Ryan?
I was going to go for the same, actually. I thought it was odd that you included triangle on its own. So,
well, I have well and truly fooled both of you, because that was the least popular option, I would say. So he's won by decision 11 times. He's won by KO or TKO 4 times. He's won by rear naked choke or guillotine 10 times. And he's won by triangle twice. So
remember he got Chael Sonnen in the triangle, didn't he?
Yeah, Chael was one of them. And he got someone in an inverted triangle or something. But decision was the correct response there, I guess. But he still has had 12 submissions all up. So he's fighting Bilal Muhammad this weekend, which I think is a very interesting fight, and one that will be, a good watch. Gentlemen, terrific stuff. We will be back on this channel on Sunday night with all of our Euros coverage. So every night we're going to have a live stream, just about every night from Monday to Friday or Sunday to Thursday, I guess, for European watchers. So we'll be previewing the upcoming day's play, which will be good fun. So hang around. It should be a very busy month on the channel. But thanks for listening, everyone. Do a quick rate and review of the pod if you can, please, and subscribe to us wherever you're watching or listening. And if you're looking to implement some of the strategies we talked about today, particularly the value betting ones, start a free week trial of Trademate Sports. Gentlemen, was good fun catching up. It's been a couple of weeks or months since we've done one of these, and we'll have to get you back. I think the next pay-per-view it's the Conor McGregor one, isn't it? I think so.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah, exciting stuff. Another rematch. How good are the UFC going? Just rematch. That's all right. We'll catch you guys later.
See you later, guys.
See ya.